actually got the ball. Good evening, Tottenham fans, and hopefully you're all keeping well on this fine Thursday evening. An absolute cracker of a day out there. So anyone that is sitting inside listening to us, I question what you're doing with your day, to be brutally honest with you. But of course, we are here with a debate show tonight, and we've also got the rest of the week's content lined up. It's all out on the channel for you to go and have a look, feast your eyes on. And tomorrow's a very busy day. We will be covering the Europa League stream, or the Europa League draw. We will be covering the under-21 watch-along and also doing a late evening deadline day stream as well. So plenty of content coming your way tomorrow. This evening, it's not all going to be transfer window focused because we've got all day tomorrow to talk about that. There will be a bit that will be transfer focused, but we will be talking about Son's 9 years of service at Tottenham. Where does he rank amongst legends of the club? Also going into Van de Ven and Solanke continuing on to play injured. Should the management be taking that decision out of their hands, taking them off, considering it's so early into the season and managing them a little bit better? And then, of course, we will get into the transfer window. Do we expect any business tomorrow or not? And then lastly, as well, but not least, have Tottenham actually improved the homegrown side? Anyone that's watched us for a long time knows it's something that me and Jack have been banging the drum about for quite some time. So we'll also have a little look at that. So plenty to discuss tonight, plus whatever you guys wanted us to discuss. And if you are a channel member, head over to the community section. There's a post up there for you guys to put in your questions that you want us to discuss right at the end as well. Jack, I think I covered everything. So how are you, sir?
Did an excellent intro, Dave. I'm doing good. We get to praise our man Sonny today, which feels right. And even seeing that young picture of him when he was signed, it was just adorable. And now he still does look pretty adorable to this day. But we didn't know at the time that he would become, in my opinion, the legend that he is today. So we get to give him some needed praise. Looking forward to some of the other questions that we lined up today. It's been a while since we've done a panel show like this, so I'm looking forward to it.
No, same here. And look, we are hoping to make them a regular feature now that the season will be up and running after this international break. So make sure you stay tuned for them. We'll head down to Sam. Sam, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys. Pleasure to be on with you, Kate, for the first time. Jack, looking very swanky in your pristine gilet. I have to admit, I'm a bit of a gilet man myself. So, I might have to copy that at some point. But, I've been itching to get back on.
I haven't heard that one yet. Gilet.
What? Oh, that's a classic around here.
Good man.
But yeah, no, I'm itching to get on. It's been a while since I've been on with you guys. I had a little bit of a fix on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was, and now I'm just excited to be back. So bring on the show.
Oh, it's absolutely great to have you back, Sammy boy. And gilets, I absolutely love them too. However, it's hard to get them to fit around my stomach and make them look good, to be brutally honest with you. But, my love for food is more than it is for gilets, so I'm willing to sacrifice on that behalf. But last but not least, we are heading down to Kate from Just a Girl Who Loves Spurs. Kate, we absolutely love having you on here. Thanks very much for coming back and speaking to us again. How are you keeping?
I'm good, thank you. First of all, Dave, if you want a gilet, around Christmas time, you can buy red ones, white fur on them. Yeah, I think that'll get round the tummy. And second of all, I've just got to say, that intro, every time I watch it, I don't know if you could see me backstage, I just smile the whole way through. It gets me so buzzed up. It's amazing. But I'm good. I'm glad to be back. Always love spending time with you both. And great, like I say, to meet Sam. Never streamed with him before. So, yeah, looking forward to the show.
No, it's absolutely fantastic to have you. And guys, make sure throughout the stream you pop over to Kate's channel and smash that subscribe button, and let's boost her up and help her out a little bit. That's what we're good for over here. So make sure you get over and do that. We'll welcome some people into the comments, and then we're going to crack on, because no doubt a lot of people have a lot of things to say. Testy times at Tottenham right now, especially with the window coming to a close. I'm quite glad it's coming to an end, to be brutally honest with you. It means Twitter can slow down a little bit, and all these news articles can slow down a little bit. Shawnee Maddox says, big up, everyone hopped on early, so I wouldn't forget. Big up, Shawnee. Really appreciate that, my man. We've also got MV Joker Davis. Had we taken Van de Ven off, we wouldn't have gotten that beautiful goal at the end. Just because we haven't seen him in training doesn't mean he isn't training. People got to stop looking at things so much. Fair point, but on that, what I will say is I did see a video of Van de Ven it was a TikTok video. He wasn't training with the rest of the team. He was on his own with a personal trainer, which means he is in recovery. He is doing something with a knee injury. So I don't think people are reading too much into it. Now, whether he gets fit or in time for Newcastle or not, that's a different question. However, so early into the season, we had Everton bet anyway. Did we need to take that risk? That last goal, fair enough, I take your point, but do we really need to take that risk knowing we've got a Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, and knowing how important Van de Ven is to this system? When he was out last season, it caused us real problems. But we'll get more into it, Eddie. Don't worry about that, my man. We've got big pants in the house. I don't remember the Arse having injury problems like we do. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. They used to, under Wenger, they used to suffer a lot of injuries and that. Now it seems to have curtailed a little bit in their favour. Mark says, Ange is to blame for Van de Ven's injury. No need to risk it. When the game is won, we have Radu Dragusin. That is a fair point, my man. DB, great to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. As always, good to see you. We've also got Davey Hall. Big up, whole crew. Please like everyone. Big up, Davey Hall. Great to see you as always, along with Tyler. As always, good to see you. Hopefully the tennis is doing you well, Tyler. It's tennis season. You know, it's good weather, so hopefully you're out there brushing up on them skills. We've got Derek Hutchinson. Big up, Dave and Jack, Sam and Kate. Great to see you, Del Boy. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. We've also got When the Spurs Go Marching In. Paul, so big up guys on the panel. Great to see everyone, and come on you Spurs, let's get the open top bus ready to show off the European trophy along with the domestic cup. Come on you Spurs. Speaking of European trophy, I'm really excited to see how the draw goes tomorrow. Champions League draw was quite exciting today, actually, if anyone has watched it, you know, and you look at the fixtures, you know, there's some mouth-watering ties, and I think they're pretty spread out all the way through. And with the new league format, you know, the word they're using is jeopardy, which I think is the right word. You know, every point, every kick, every goal, it really matters in terms of, you know, how easy you want to be able to progress through the tournament. So, you know, I'm really excited, and I think the same will be with the Europa League. So I'm really excited for that tomorrow, which we will be covering live. So make sure you tune in. Lisa O says, I continue to say it. Best intro music in the Spurs community. Big up the panel. Excited for the show. Chica, absolutely love that. She's agreeing with Kate there. I really do appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much. We've also got Darren D'Souza in the house. Big up, guys. Great to see you, Darren. Hopefully you're keeping well, sir. We've also got Faz Radfar 31 Spurs. Big up panel. My favorite channel. Hope you're all well. We're keeping well, Fazzy. Hopefully you're keeping well too, sir. And then we've got Kuva in the house. Kuva, I haven't seen you in a long time. How are you keeping, sir? He says, big up David, Jack, Sam, and Kate. Did you know Kate knows Mickey Hazard? I think she mentioned it once. Yes, she used to be hanging out with him an awful lot lately. Stadium tours, games, you know, charity streams, you know. But in fairness, she done great work for Mickey Hazard, bringing awareness to the charity that he has, you know, and it's always good to see. So fair play to Kate on that. And look, if it means she becomes best friends with Mickey Hazard because of it, who are we to judge? Who are we to begrudge? You know, at the end of the day, that's what I say. But honestly, Kuva, it is good to see you in the house. Hopefully you are keeping well. Hopefully the kids are keeping well. Hopefully you've settled into the new house and, you know, you're getting to grips with life around you and stuff like that. So good to see you in the house, and big season ahead, Kuva. And then we've also got Ange Ball. Big up, guys. I was screaming at the TV for Ange to get Van de Ven straight off as soon as that happened, and I couldn't believe he let him play on. It seems to be a contentious talking point today. Paul G, big up to one and all. One hell of a panel. Come on, you Spurs. Great to see you. Along with Phil Coyce. Good to see you, my man. And then we also have Mile High Hotspur in here. Yo, much love, my homies. Lovely panel. I seen you were enjoying an out trophy there the other day. Mile High Hotspur, you know, for Colorado Rapids. So
nice.
At least you get one trophy in the cabinet to be able to celebrate. And we've got a super sticker here from Dermatron.
Yes, Dave, and it is him. I think he's punching you here in this super sticker because he's battling it out with you for, you know, Ireland's number one Spurs fan, and he's given you the RKO. He's given you the 1-2 punch there. And then he's also followed up by saying, which we'll probably start off first in this show with, which is Son is a Spurs legend in this Spurs era. I wonder what you mean by that, Dermot, towards the end there in this era. Do you mean just only in one era? Or do you mean kind of, you know, in general? Because I feel like in all-time history, I think he does go down as a legend, but of course we'll get into that.
Well, look, you know, may as well segue into it now. Just give me a minute. Neighbors are being a bit noisy, so I need to go and close my window. Jack, you take it over.
No problem. Everybody, if you can for us, though, get your thoughts in the chat for this one. And for all the rest of the questions, please, and smash the like button and do head on over to Kate's channel, please. But we'll start off with you, Kate, because, you know, I'm curious what maybe you might think Dermot meant by this, that Sonny maybe is only a legend in this Spurs era. He just celebrated 9 years at the club. Where does he rank in the all-time greats for you?
Do you know what? Sonny's a difficult one because everyone loves Sonny. You know, he's loyal beyond compare. We all know what, you know, he could have gone to Saudi. He's had offers, blah, blah, blah. For me, he will always be a club legend for me. He's 9 years at the club. You know, he's overachieved. I'd never heard of him when he signed. I was a bit like, you know, who is this guy? And, you know, we look at him now. He's the captain of our club, scored 122 league goals for us. But will he be considered a legend in football? Probably not, in the same way that Harry Kane won't. You know, it's all about winning things. He's not won anything with his club. So I think he will always be a club legend. For me, one of the best players we've had in the Premier League era, for sure. As far as all-time greats, I'm not sure where I'd put him. But in the Premier League era, he's definitely up there. And like I say, he will always be a club legend. I just don't think he'd get the recognition from anywhere else other than Tottenham fans, because he hasn't got the silverware to show it. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that that's how it is. And yeah, see, look, I'm not saying it's right, and apparently I'm wrong. So there you go. I mean, we as Tottenham fans, we adore him. He can't, you know, comes up for a lot of criticism, Sonny, but he always proves the haters wrong, proves the doubters wrong. I said at the start of the season, I was a bit worried. He looked a bit leggy. Went to the game last week. Wow, the pace on that guy still is unbelievable. So, you know, for me, it will always be a club legend, like I say, but I just don't think he'll ever be considered up there unless he goes on to win some stuff.
I mean, Sam, you and I are part of maybe what Mark called it, the win-nothing era. Where does Sonny rank for you in sort of Spurs all-time greats? For me, he's easily in the top 3, but I'm not sure where he ranks for you.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
during my lifetime, for sure, Kate. Absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like, I started watching Spurs properly probably the season after we won the League Cup. And so, like, my early memories of Spurs aren't probably the strongest, but obviously we had, you know, players like Defoe, I think Van der Vaart. But, like, the fact that Sonny's been there 9 years now, you know, he had a tough start. Supposedly, if you listen to the rumors, he wanted to go. Obviously, thank God that he didn't, and he's ended up staying here. Never scored in a big game. What about that Arsenal like absolute banger a few seasons ago? Anyway, yeah, no, look, I think his loyalty should bump him up quite a few rankings for a lot of people. You know, I think it was maybe two or three seasons ago, there was rumors that Liverpool was sniffing around, maybe around the time that Mane was leaving. And, you know, he could have gone there and probably won at least one trophy by now. And let's be honest, Salah and Son up front for someone would have been probably the most devastating attack in the league. I don't even want to think about the prospect of that. But yeah, Sonny, I definitely would put him in my top 5. I don't know who else would be in my top 5, but I definitely will reserve a place for him up there with the legends of the club in my era, at least. Obviously, I didn't get to watch some of the legends like Hoddle. I didn't get to watch Gascoigne, who is obviously a lot of people's favorite players. I don't know if the fact that Son's not necessarily like a flair player might like put him down a few people's rankings, but his catalogue of goals alone should surely put him right up there.
One would argue that, yeah, sometimes his compilations, you know, have actually probably been better than even other players, you know, in Spurs past. Even though Harry Kane has had an incredible catalog of goals, you could argue that if you were just to make a sick highlight reel of both, they both would compare quite favorably. But Dave, for you, I mean, Sonny, I put him in my top 3 with Gareth Bale and with Harry Kane in terms of all-time greats that I've seen during my lifetime. But is he a legend? Is he a certified Spurs legend for you?
Do you know what? I've been thinking about this one all week, Jack, and I've sort of been trying to weigh it up. Because weirdly enough, someone like David Ginola, Luka Modric, Gareth Bale, Harry Kane, players like that, although they haven't shown Tottenham the loyalty that Son has shown Tottenham, me personally, I still hold them in a higher category than I do Son. I also look at someone like Son. How would he survive in an era that they had to play in where it was a lot more physical, which means you would take away some of the goals that Son is scoring because you could take him out a lot quicker and a lot easier back then. And when you look at some of the games where the physicality in the modern day, he sort of shirked away from that. So it's a hard one for me to sort of weigh up because, like I said, I do revere other players higher than Son. However, the loyalty that this guy has shown Tottenham, considering he's not a Tottenham boy, he's not even from England, is absolutely incredible and should never, ever be overlooked. You know, through Tottenham's hard times, he's the only one that stayed from that 2019 final and all the way through. He's the only one that's been here. Even Harry Kane, the club's all-time record goal scorer, is completely bailed. You know, he's the only one that stood by. And in that alone, his love for the club and everything else. And look, he has scored some great goals for Tottenham. He's assisted some great goals for Tottenham. And like Sam alluded to, he's got one of the best highlight reels you can see, you know, from any sort of Tottenham player with the goals and stuff like that. And he should be considered a Tottenham legend. He will go into that category. It's just, where does he fit in for me, I think, is the fairest answer I can give that, to be brutally honest with you.
I think that was a fair way to end it, where for you, he still meets the L word, legend, but is he the best of the legends? You know, that's another conversation entirely. For me, I think the fact that he even ranks inside the top 10 for the all-time goal scorers for Spurs already makes him a legend. He's cracked into the top 5. It looks like he's about to break, if you hope, you know, if he stays for another season or two, he will break Martin Chivers' record as well. So he would then rank as the 4th all-time goal scorer. And if you were to take out, he's actually the only UK player to be in the top 10 of the all-time Spurs goal scorer list. And it's hard to say who the next one would be that would break into the all-time top 10 goal scorers list that is a non-UK player from either Northern Ireland, Wales, or England, right? Or Scotland, I believe, as well. I think one of them ranks in the top 10 there. And for me with Sonny, I think loyalty does go a really long way. For me personally, might not go very long with other people. You know, plenty of people have huge respect and huge admiration for guys like Luka Modric, who might have been some of the best that we've ever seen in a Spurs shirt. But in the case of Sonny, I think that loyalty that he has shown us over some really, really bad periods, I have a lot of respect for. And I think it's a tough one for Spurs fans, because we're a big enough club where maybe loyalty doesn't go, the whole way with people. Whereas if it were like a Mark Noble at a West Ham, or maybe other players that stick with their team for a very long time when they could have maybe gone for a bigger move, you know, sometimes the fans will reward that player with that legendary status for that reason. But I think with Sonny, you know, the fact that he has stuck around during really, really poor periods, and, you know, especially the time when Nuno came in charge, I think that was a good opportunity for Sonny to pack up and leave, and he didn't. And also we know that during that summer that Harry Kane was flirting with the likes of Man City. I wasn't really that, begrudged by that. You know, I think I understood when Harry Kane was doing that, but Sonny, right, kept his sort of mouth shut, or sort of kept, his interest, if there was any interest elsewhere, kind of to a minimum. And he did show us that faith. And the fact that he has stuck around for as long as he did, as again, a non-UK Spurs player, he's easily the best of all time in that category. And for me, he's one of the best finishers that I've ever seen in my lifetime in the Premier League in general. I kind of agree with what Kate has said, where do other maybe non-Spurs fans of, of football or the Premier League in general rank him? Hard to say, but I wonder if they were to look back at someone like Sonny, what are some of the attributes that they would mention about him? And I think he would go down as one of the best, goal-scoring wingers that they had seen in definitely a long period of time, because he's easily one of the best finishers that I've seen in my lifetime. And also just in general, the kind of, I don't know, the likability of him, I think also goes a really long way with me. It might be a lot of sentimental things because he's still with us and we still get to see him every week, and he has that very nice smile and just sort of nice aura about him. But I think the loyalty, the likability, the fact that he's been a really good ambassador to other foreign players, a lot of people that come to this club from other leagues or from around the world, they seem to look up to Son, maybe because he is an example to them that you can try to climb your way up the Spurs rankings in terms of legendary status, even if you're not from the UK. And for me, I think that just goes a really long way. I think those are a lot of sentimental reasons. And of course, we could dive into stats and things like that, but I don't think I even need to. I think just, the just general aura that Son has had over this 9-year period has just been truly legendary for me.
Look, I think, if he leads Tottenham to a trophy, I think that will 100% cement that, if he can do that over the next 1 or 2 seasons under Ange Postecoglou, because time is running out. And that's one thing that will always be labelled against him. Couvers, I've seen put comments in there. Kate, my dad's always on about it as well to me. They're from an era where they've seen Tottenham pick up a couple of trophies every single decade, make finals regularly, and when you deliver trophies and you've got the medals around your neck, it's undeniable. You are an absolute legend of this football club. And if Son really wants to be put into that category, ahead of the likes of maybe a Bale, a Modric, even our club all-time record goal scorer Harry Kane to a degree, he has to deliver a trophy. He delivers that, I think it's undeniable. If he doesn't, there's always going to be them questions. I think he'll more go down as a great servant of the club, a loyal player, a nice guy, but is he a legend? So I think it leaves it up for discussion until he delivers a trophy.
He's still certainly yeah. Go ahead, Kate.
Sorry, Jack. I was just going to say, playing devil's advocate here, you've got to look at it. I understand the whole loyalty thing because we love him for it. But if Real Madrid had come in for Sonny like they did for Bale, would we still have Sonny here? And if we did, would that be a lack of ambition on his part for not going? You can look at it both ways. I'm not saying that I agree with that statement. What I'm saying is I know he was loosely linked to Liverpool. Saudi came in and they really wanted him. But if a big sort of Real Madrid came in and said, Son, we want to build a team around you, they wanted Bale so bad, Bale wanted to go there, would Sonny still be here? No one can say one way or the other. And as much as I love Sonny, he's a lovely, lovely guy, and he does make you proud to be a Spurs fan. Nice guys don't win you trophies as such. And until he's lifting that trophy for me, he's not going to ever be at legendary status. I love, Jack, that you said that he's in your top 3, because when I think of the players that I've seen over the years, I don't know if he'd make my top 20, let alone my top 10, even though he's been here for 9 years and he is a fantastic player. But it is all about ages as well. As you say, I'm a lot older than you are, so I've seen a lot of different players. Jim's a lot older than me, so he's seen even more. It's just going to be levels sort of thing.
Yeah. I think in the case of also him, potentially being lured to another club, I just wonder if sometimes we have to consider with certain players, if they have made it quite clear that they enjoy where they are and they're happy where they are. What's the point of throwing in an 80 million bid or something like that? Because the club at Spurs, they're not going to force him out because he's been very good to us and he's been one of our best players over the period that he's been here. And that if he's indicated this whole time that he's going to stick around for a really long time and he really likes his life in London, he likes the club, he enjoys what he's built here, there's not really much point in actually reporting that, Bayern are interested or Real Madrid are interested, because they have to first know that he is interested in even leaving in the first place. And I wonder if Sonny's just been that loyal over this time period where he's just pretty much indicated to the club as well as to any outside interest, listen, I like my life here. I like Spurs. Maybe if something dramatic were to happen, yes, but I don't think he's ever had that sort of situation occur with him where he hasn't felt the need to indicate that he's a little unsure about his future. He's a little unsure about where he might want to go. He's pretty much anytime been asked about that, he said this is where he belongs and he loves being here. And I think that then means we're never going to get much interest or reports from reporters that, Bayern are interested or Real Madrid are interested, because he's pretty much shucked away those rumors anytime that's come his way.
Also, I'd add to that, anytime his contract's been up for renewal, there's never really been any prolonged contract negotiations with the guy. It's always been very straightforward, which doesn't open the door for interest from other parties. When he's signing on the contracts that he's signing, soon as he signs, any interest that was maybe potentially around him is absolutely completely gone. I'd also add one other thing. The commercial revenue that this guy brings to Tottenham. Daniel Levy wouldn't even dream of entertaining an offer for Son if it came his way. And I think a lot of people a lot of clubs already know that as well when it comes to Son.
Which means Son would have to force the move himself, right? Basically.
100%, a bit like what Harry Kane had to do. He ended up having to force that move himself. Sonny's never done that. So that's, and, because of how much he is worth to Tottenham, not only on the pitch, but also in terms of commercial revenue, Daniel Levy wouldn't even entertain an offer. So he could have had conversations with clubs where it could have been brought up in discussion and he shut it down quickly. So there's been nothing ever to really come off the back of it. So yeah, I think that's my answer to maybe what Scott Nelson is saying here, where he says, Dave, he's had no option. I would say he hasn't really given a club an option to really show the interest in him either. I think it works both ways, to be brutally honest on that one.
Daniel Levy didn't give him an option and he didn't seem that interested in forcing his way out. But just on to some recency news, instead of talking about our legendary status of Sonny, we do have a question on maybe recent criticism that he's come under. And I think we'll go back to you on this one, Kate, and then we'll go to Sam as well. But what's your opinion on maybe recent performances when Spurs haven't won? Son's been under a lot of criticism. Do you think it's been unfair? Do you think it's been justified? Sometimes the leadership qualities have been questioned in his game. What do you make of recent criticism that Son has kind of gone under?
Do you know what? I'm one of these people that think if you're going to praise someone, you've got to be ready to criticize them if they need it. And But at the same time, every time we criticise Son, people were saying a couple of seasons ago that he needs to be sold. I said it at the start of the season. He looked like he'd lost a bit of pace and wasn't clicking. And then we go and watch the Everton match and he scores 2 great goals. Is it unwarranted? No. I love Sonny. I'm just not sure he's captain material. But having said that, do we have captain material? I look at Porro and I think he's the closest we've got to a captain. His passion and the way he was leading the team against Everton was unbelievable. But people are always going to find somebody to criticise. Tottenham, particularly, the fan base is always looking for a scapegoat one way or the other, from what I've noticed. And Sonny, now he's getting older, seems to be a prime target. And of course, the other thing is we know how brilliant Sonny can be. So if he isn't on his best game, we judge him at the standard up here because that's how we know he can play. So if he doesn't reach that standard, he's always going to come out for criticism. But I mean, I've just seen Adam Phillips saying he lost a yard of pace. I thought that. Let me tell you something. When you're at that stadium and you watch him go, he looks mega fast. He doesn't look like he's lost any pace to me. So I think we sometimes take for granted just what a gem that we've got. That's what I would say.
I mean, I'd agree with you. I think, and I even heard Simon Jordan say something recently where you can't be a top level footballer and get all the praise in the world without there being some room for criticism. They get paid hundreds of thousands a week. They're allowed to be criticized, every now and again. And not every player is perfect. They will have something that maybe they haven't necessarily worked on. There's something that they might have a certain flaw. Everybody has flaws in their game. For the most part. Yeah, Dave, you're coming in on that.
Well, here's where I think it goes too far, though, Jack and Kate and Sam, is for me, there's one thing criticising the player for his performance, but anytime Tottenham don't win, we constantly hear he's lost the yard of pace, he's over the hill, we need to cash in, we should move him on. And that's gone way too over the top. Like, the thing is, Son's our only world-class player now. You've got a couple bordering on heading into that world-class category with Van de Ven, Romero, players like that. But especially in the forward area, he's our only world-class forward player. And it's like everything hinges on him. The minute he has one off game, all of a sudden the same conversations about his age and everything else come straight back out. People looking to cash in and stuff like that. And in reality, that criticism should go to the other players in the forward line. When Tottenham win, it usually means Son is the one that stepped up and, is the catalyst for Tottenham winning, especially in terms of the forward area, where that's finishing moves or starting moves. And, every player has a game or two where it doesn't quite happen. But the minute someone else doesn't step up, they're never questioned. It's always Son. And that's, for me, where I think it goes over the top. And I personally think it's wrong. I don't know what you guys feel about that, but I don't like that.
Sam, what are your thoughts on Sonny's criticism of late?
I mean, look, I agree. No player is really above criticism. I've given him my fair share of criticism. I think it was maybe the season where he, not last season, the season before, I was thinking at the end of that season, he ended up scoring a decent amount of goals, not on his level, but a decent amount of goals for a winger. And I thought, maybe as much as I love him, it is time to let him go. And then obviously he came back the next season, and I was sort of like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have even thought that. But I think when you're the captain of the club, you're almost like you're the magnet of criticism, right? People look at you, and a lot of the criticism is he's not captain material, whether you agree with that or not. I don't necessarily agree with it. I can see the arguments of kind of wanting a player like Romero, who's gonna, be on the front lines of Spurs, battering all the criticism and battering the opposition when we need it. But I think you can lead in a variety of ways. I think it definitely does go quite over the top, but I think that we're in quite a unique sphere, right, with the social media age, where you kind of, if you like one tweet about criticism, your entire timeline is flooded with criticism. You like one tweet of praise, and it's the other way around. So I think that if you actually spoke to the average stadium going fan, you'd probably hear a lot more neutral views on Son. People saying he's coming towards the end of his career, but he's still up there as one of our best, if not our best player. He's not going to have an incredible game every game. Maybe we expect more from him in other games where, you know, no one's really playing well and you need that player to kind of take the game by the scruff of the neck. But I think that Spurs fans, and not just Spurs fans, but football fans are, you know, we're emotional and we're passionate. So, you know, it's tough to take a step back and look at the bigger picture of things where, you know, Son might not have a good game, but is that because of him, or is that because nobody found him, or, you know, he was getting marked out of the game because the system has flaws, and, you know, people know how to play against it, especially towards the end of the season last season. So but I think that he is rightly criticized, but he's criticized too much. I think that's where I land on it.
I can definitely understand that. And, you know, in recent seasons, I could see why we're constantly questioning leadership. You know, I wish it happened a bit more when we had Hugo Lloris still in goals, because I think we saw similar times where Spurs' head were lost in the middle of games, or we feel like, you know, why is the team all of a sudden, you know, passing sideways, passing backwards, passing on responsibility, not holding each other accountable. I think that's been the case for a long time now, whether it's been Sonny as a captain, Harry Kane as a captain, or even Lloris as a captain. You could almost go even further back after that. I'm not sure when's the last time that Spurs really did have that sort of conventional, you know, obvious leader captain in a team. And I think, you know, that is an area that maybe Sonny could come under some sort of whatever you want to call it, criticism or whatever. But in my opinion, in recent games, I think we still need to have this guy. He's by far the best finisher in the team. He's by far one of the best finishers I've ever seen in my lifetime as a Spurs fan. And that's been a huge problem, you know, since Harry Kane has left. It has been finishing chances and has been, you know, that sort of clinical edge and that composure in front of goal. And composure, I think, just goes hand in hand when you're talking about a guy like Sonny. He's always been a guy that I would consider to be one of the coolest heads in the building when he is in front of goal and when he does have that extra moment to think about a finish. Even that goal that he had against Jordan Pickford, I actually said to Dave, I felt like Van de Ven, despite how amazing that run is, I thought he actually passed it almost a bit too late. And then Sonny had to think about the finish in a different way, and he still executed it in the way that I know that he can, where he doesn't panic, he doesn't overthink things, and he just sort of slots it into the back of the net like many other great finishers with him and before him. And my last little thing on him is that he was part of, in my opinion, the best striking duo of all time for me as a Spurs fan, and even in Premier League in general. Him and Kane are the best I've ever seen as a pairing. And I think that, you know, is also goes down into maybe the previous conversation of legendary status. But I know Dark Sun G, he's actually talking about the Europa League. I thought he'd be more interested in the Sonny debate, but maybe he's just happy to let others, you know, chime in on it. Yes, Dave.
Just before we head into the Europa League conversation there, just to maybe round up on Sonny quickly. Look, I think it's fair to ask questions of, you know, him as a captain, right? I think that's absolutely fair in terms of criticism and maybe things that he could be doing better in that role. But we need to be careful what we wish for. You know, many people said it's grand, get rid of Harry Kane, everything else. And then 4 months later into the season when the window was shut, was sitting there screaming for a striker. You know, and we'll get into the exact same position with Son if we keep that level of criticism up. I know what Sam was saying about maybe the match day and going fans maybe differ a little bit in terms of the worldwide fan base, but the reality is it's a worldwide fan base and noise is made, you know, and the criticisms are heard, they're amplified and stuff like that on social media and everything else. And for me, like I say, just be careful what you wish for. We've already got one world-class player that left this club, and we're looking at the other one we had decided he wants to stay and continue his legacy on at Tottenham Hotspur. Let's not hound him out the club. Let's not run him out the club and actually show him the respect he deserves. If there's a game, like for instance, like the criticism after the Leicester game was baffling me. You know, he was the only constant problem to that Leicester side most of the game. Nothing came from that right-hand side. But yet Johnson didn't get anywhere near as much criticism as Son has. You know, Dominic Solanke should have had 1 or 2 goals. Didn't get anywhere near as much criticism as Son did. And I think it's unfair, you know, and that's why I keep saying sometimes you have to look deeper into it and go, okay, Son done all he could today. He ran at his fullback. He drove him backwards. Okay, on another day, you might get end product out of him. It didn't happen against Leicester. But it was almost like he takes sole responsibility, sole burden, and people are like, no, he's finished, let's sell him. It's absolute madness. We need to try and keep our world-class players, and, you know, we should be looking at other people and trying to drag them up to his standard that he set in this forward line, rather than as soon as it doesn't work, go sell him. Because I know what's going to happen 4 months into the season, when the transfer window is closed, everyone's going to be sitting there going, Dave, we have a left wing problem, even though people tried to ridicule me when I tried to highlight that before. So, you know, let's just be fair with Sonny when it comes to this. Don't put all the losses all on him. It's not entirely fair on the guy, because there's only so long, loyalty will last for. Eventually he'll get fed up and just walk away. He will, if it keeps happening. So be nicer to Son.
Well, Dark Sun G has come in here, though, on the Europa League, and big up to Dark Sun G and everyone else that has joined us. Over 200 in the house. If you can for us, smash the like button. Do check out Kate's channel, Just a Girl Who Loves Spurs, and also get any comments that you might have for Sam or Dave or any of the rest of the panel, please. But Dark Sun G is saying, Jack, I saw who you want for the Europa League draw, and I noticed that you wanted Ajax and AZ Alkmaar. That's where two of our former players are, Bergwijn and Parrott. Are you trying to suggest, Dark Sun G, that I might be suggesting some teams that would step their game up coming up against their former side? With Bergwijn, I don't really have much fear for the guy. I think he's seen his game really drop off a ton of levels. I think there has been potentially an attitude problem there, because the fact that he hasn't really been approached by any other clubs since his move to Ajax, and he didn't exactly carry that Ajax team when they did go through that bit of a downfall. I'm not saying that it's all on him or it's all on his shoulders, but he didn't really look like he stepped up to a degree when that, sort of tumultuous period was happening. I'm kind of glad that we're rid of Bergwijn. When it comes to Parrott, I wonder if we did come up against an AZ Alkmaar and Parrott would actually step his game up, try to score against Spurs, because he does look like he's all of a sudden kind of coming into his own. I don't think Spurs could have waited that much longer really for Parrott. They took their time. They were waiting for him to kind of sort of reach these levels, and maybe it was just kind of one of those things where he needed to take time away from the club, take time away from the pressure that comes with playing for a big club like Tottenham. And now we're seeing him start to hit the heights that plenty of us thought he would in a Spurs shirt. But anybody have any preferences on Europa League opponents? That was a video that Dave and I just did recently. Some people suggested that we should have gone for more harder opponents to kind of prepare ourselves for later down the line. So maybe Sam, I'll go to you on this one. What's your ideal Europa League kind of group if you were to pick some teams? Would you rather go for the harder teams or make it as easy as possible?
Well, I mean, I feel like you want to be tested. You want to have some tests, but obviously you do ideally want to just get as far as possible. So, I mean, you probably go into every competition thinking, oh, I hope we get, like Chelsea have in the League Cup. I hope I get Barrow or something. You know what I mean? A team that you don't even know if they've got a stadium. Oh, that's disrespectful, but you know what I mean.
No, we know what you mean. It's not disrespectful. It's true.
But look, I think as well, you don't want to just coast all the way through and then get knocked out to the first team that is half decent, right? And we've been knocked out to some crap over the years, like in all competitions. Let's be honest. So I'd like a mix. Obviously, with the new format, it is going to be different, So every game kind of matters. But I hope that we do have, some weaker teams where you can actually give the likes of Mikey Moore and Lancashire runs out in the team, and give these other younger players a chance to play and show their worth to the fact that they might actually get more minutes in other competitions and in the Premier League as well. Because, you're never going to be able to tell if these players are any good if you play them against the lowest of low quality, and then if it doesn't work, you drop them. Like in Mourinho's case with Parrott, he missed one penalty, and then we never saw him again. And Mourinho was in the media slating him, saying that's why I'm the manager, and that's why I don't play young players, and blah blah blah. But yeah, so I don't really have I haven't really looked through the teams to see who exactly I'd want. I would like to see us play some teams with our former players. I think the fear of playing AZ Alkmaar is similar to how it was with Sporting last year or the year before, and you like with Marcus Edwards, that Parrott is going to get a goal against us. I think every fan is just sitting there thinking, oh God, don't say you want to play against a former player because it's written in the stars. But yeah, so I'm excited for the campaign, and I'd like to see some places that you wouldn't normally go to, but I'd like to just get as far as possible as well.
Kate, do you believe in former players coming to haunt Spurs, and especially if it were the Europa League?
Do you know what? I look at the teams in the Europa League, and although there's a couple in there that worry me a little bit, there's no team in there that I don't think we can beat on our day. So for me, I just say whatever comes, it's in the hands of the gods. If you're going to win it, you've got to beat everybody. So I don't have any preference at all. All I want is for the boys to step up in every single game, because if we're on our A game every game, we can win it. And I really do believe that.
And he's also followed up by saying, this is the first Europa League in a while when we play attacking football with a similar squad under Pochettino, where there are almost no deadwoods left as well. Come on, you Spurs. Dave, that's also been on the back of my mind when it comes to this Europa League, where when we had Jose and as well as Antonio Conte, it did sort of feel like, we weren't really playing the perfect sort of style of play for these teams, that they don't need to go toe-to-toe against us. We have better players. We are technically a bigger club. They should probably try to sit back against us. Whereas now we have kind of the sort of right style of play to come up against these teams. And we do have probably better players now that are suited for this style of play to come up against these teams that will sit back. We'll just put every man behind the ball. And I'm actually more confident about us going deep into the Europa League, actually, because of the style of play that Ange Postecoglou has for some of these smaller teams.
The style of play and the squad, when you look at the squad, that's how you can implement your style of play across the whole season. Anyone that steps in for someone, we should more or less, right now, bar maybe a fan of N or a Doji gets injured, we should still be able to play the exact same way. We shouldn't have such a drop off in terms of, the passing ability, the fluidity of moves, the attacking patterns, stuff like that. There shouldn't be really too much of a drop off. And that's what really makes me excited for this Europa League campaign. Also, in years gone by, there's no excuses for losing to the likes of NS Mora, being beaten by the likes of Pacos de Ferreira and stuff like that. No excuses for it, whether you're playing an attacking or a defensive system, even Dynamo Zagreb. But we invited the pressure on because of how we play, rather than take the onus on us. And almost it made us start respecting minnow teams, which we should never have to do at Tottenham Hotspur. Start fearing minnow teams, which we should never have to do at Tottenham Hotspur. We are one of the biggest clubs in European football. We should be able to rock up to them teams and play them off the park, and go and get the victories. I'm getting back to this style of play, this philosophy. It'll automatically start pushing them back. We will bag goals against these sort of teams, and we'll start getting back that winning mentality that we would. You wouldn't hear a Man City fan, go to any of the games that we've been to over the last couple of years and go, oh, caution, we need to respect them just in case we get turned over, because it's happened to us before. You just wouldn't hear an Arsenal fan say that right now. You just wouldn't hear a Liverpool fan say that. And that's the sort of mindset we need to get back into. And I think this Europa League campaign, I think this is going to be the one that will hopefully maybe shift that mentality a little bit going forward, because we've had to show some shit clubs that we've never mentioned since, and some respect that we should never have had to put on their name, and it's been quite largely embarrassing. So I'm really looking forward to this Europa League campaign. Unlike Sam, I want the easiest route all the way through possible. There's times later on in the competition to face the big teams, and plus with the Premier League side by side along with the Carabao Cup, I don't want them taxing fixtures midweek. I want the easy ones. Give me them towards the end of the campaign when we reach the quarters, the semis, or the final. That's when I'm happy to take them on, when the fixtures are more or less starting to wind down a little bit.
Yeah, I think this style of play from Ange Postecoglou, it pretty much ensures that, the mentality going into it is that we will try to dominate this team, and we'll try to go 1 goal, 2 goals up, 3 goals up as quickly as possible to take the game out of reach, where it did feel like maybe in previous sort of games, and also because of the players, but it also felt like because of the coaching style, the Spurs were more cautious than I think they needed to be against some of these teams. Whereas Ange Postecoglou, I think, is going to rock up to some of these games, no matter who he has on the pitch, is going to expect that we should be dominating them. And I think that's the right mentality to have going into these Europa League games. And don't get me wrong, I love the Europa League. I think you can get easily caught out, and, we'll be surprised by certain teams, but we still on paper should have much, much better players and should be able to dominate most teams that we come up against.
Right, I can get being caught out to a Sociedad, to a Betis, to a team from Germany, but not to NS Mora, where half them had to go and work in a factory during the day to earn a wage. Not to the likes of fucking Pacos de Ferreira, who are in the back end of Portugal in some holiday village. That just are not known for their football. It should never happen. I can get caught. I can understand being caught out but not some of the teams we have. By Jesus Christ.
Dark Sun G's also said, I think he means FC Midtjylland. I think he means probably the Dutch, the Danish team here. Has a young Korean center back, Lee Han-bum. Apologies, pronunciation there, Dark Sun G's, which would be interesting to watch Sun versus Lee in previous Europa or Conference League games. Our Deadwood bottled it. Sam, you're a young fan like myself, so when we have seen us in these Europa Conference League games, Europa League games, from Dinamo Zagreb to Enes Mura to Vitesse, away from home, we've seen Spurs look like they're in the trenches against, almost any type of opponent. I really hope that doesn't happen this year, and I really hope we go into it with a much better mentality than we have in the past.
Well, I think Dave's right about the we've given some pretty woeful teams, or had to give them, respect. Like, I mean, that Conference League was just the biggest shambles you can even imagine. In the end, we end up like, we shouldn't have ever been in a point where, even if we missed the game of the group stage, that we would be knocked out of the competition. It's the Europa Conference, for God's sake. Like, we West Ham fans are singing "Champions of Europe, we know what we are," and don't get me wrong, like, I'd probably be doing the same. But it's just like the caliber of teams in that competition was so woeful. I mean, look at the team that Chelsea are going to play. Servette, is it called? I saw a video of their stadium, and it's like 5 rows of seats. It's in like in the middle of a field with like cows and stuff in the background. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that, but come on, if you can't beat a team with the investment infrastructure like that, then what are you really doing, right? And those are the games where you should be able to play your youngsters and still get a result. I mean, I watched the did we play Bristol the other day in the for the under-21s, and we won on penalty, or we got the win on penalties technically. That's a championship or League One opposition. I think League One, and our youngsters, there was no big players in that, and our youngsters looked, I thought, very, very good. I don't watch a huge deal of it, but there was nothing really going on, so I figured I'd just watch it, and I was impressed with a lot of the physicality of the players against teams like this. And we play in one of the most physical and demanding leagues in the world, so these smaller teams of smaller leagues, and it's not just that these are like the best teams of their worse leagues than us. These aren't even the top teams, so you've got to be smashing these teams, right? And as you say, getting that confidence and having that winning mentality again to push on as a club and take that into our league form.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And, even some of the teams you come up against, especially even in the Europa League, can be teams, again, no disrespect to them, but I listened to, a really great podcast on some of these teams called The Sweeper, and they talk about some of these teams, the far reaches of Europe or whatever. And, these teams are, existing on like players that are being paid 5,000 a week compared to the 100,000, 200,000 that Spurs players are on. And, the Europa League money, funds some of these clubs for like decades, compared to a club like Spurs, where the money is actually nothing at all. It's just the competition itself is what we should really be after. And there's just a completely different sort of level that, Spurs are in when it comes to some of these teams that you'll be coming up against. So I hope that we take it far more seriously. And that's been the problem, Dark Sunji, is it felt like maybe at times the players didn't take it very seriously. Maybe the managers didn't take it very seriously. And that mentality also needs to switch. And also the club as well, where the club seemed to prioritize a top 4 finish more than they prioritize a deep run into a Europa League, which I think is a competition that to a degree really suits Spurs. As much as I would like to see us go deep into the Champions League again, I think we actually have better hopes and should have better hopes as a fan base, as a collective, to go deep into a Europa League, where that is technically more the level that I think us, as a squad, as a manager, as a club, could have high expectations for. To try to act like we shouldn't have high expectations, I think is completely silly. It is a level that we should expect to go deep into, and if we don't, it is a failure in my books. And we failed in the past, and I don't want to see it happen again. It's been embarrassing to see us kind of treat it as a know-nothing competition. We should be treating it with more respect, and we should be expecting to go deep into it.
When I was younger, when we used to play in the UEFA Cup, last 16 minimum. You wouldn't even dream of going out before that. Quarterfinals, absolute minimum. And we have to get that sort of reputation back in this Europa League, that we should be expected to be there. And if we don't, it's a catastrophic failure. And the club seriously needs to have an inquest on why it didn't happen. That's the sort of standards we need to get back to. I disagree slightly that the managers didn't take it seriously. I think maybe you could argue that against Pochettino, but even though he was one of the only managers I'd say maybe didn't have or didn't take it as seriously, he was still getting us to the last 16 of the competition and stuff like that. But like Conte and Jose, they had to make rotations in order to be able to sustain a European competition, the Premier League and the domestic cup competitions. You have to be able to rotate and make changes. Now, when they rotate and make changes for them cup competitions, people go, oh, they're not taking it seriously. I think that's absolutely wrong. They're taking it seriously. They're putting out a team that they feel should be able to beat them, and they've held them back for this game because they feel they should be able to beat them. It's not the manager's fault that these players have gone out there with the wrong attitude and haven't taken it seriously and stuff like that. That's completely different. But there's no way we can say Conte doesn't take European Cup competition seriously. Jose doesn't take European Cup competition seriously. They do. They were let down by the players that they had to be able to rotate with. And I think this year we won't see that where we'll go, oh, he's not taking it seriously, because we're going to have a complete different squad. If we take out a Madison and put in a Bergvall, if you take out a Basuma, put in an Archie Gray, if you take out a Solanke, put in a Richarlison or someone like that, no one can really argue that Ange isn't taking it seriously. He's just trying to use the squad that he has available to navigate the fixtures. So I don't think that's going to be as much of a conversation after this season, I hope.
So for you, it wasn't always the manager. It's just actually the level of players that we had just sadly weren't good enough to beat, the cases of Ennis Mura.
I remember years ago, we played Shamrock Rovers, we played Hearts in various European competitions. I remember a guy called Conor Ogliff playing. That guy never appeared for Tottenham since, and didn't he? He ended up playing a career completely lower down the league. Harry Kane scored his first goal, I think was Shamrock Rovers. We put out a lot of our younger squad players, from the academy, which people haven't even heard of before, along with some fringe players. And we were going out and beating these teams 4-5-0 off the park. And if anyone thinks I'm making it up, just go back and look at the records. They'll show you how easy it was for us to beat these teams with a much depleted squad, with a complete 11 changes from goalkeeper all the way through the pitch, using various parts of the academy and the fringe squads. And we were going out and smacking these teams. And that's the standard we need to get back to.
Yeah. Absolutely. We have some questions.
Remember,
go ahead, Sam, please.
And you got to remember as well that this is probably one of our. I know it's difficult to go and win the Europa League, but it's one of our best chances of getting Champions League as well. If Ange decides that towards the latter stages of the season, and we're coming up against like a Roma or something, and we've got I don't know, like a maybe even a Newcastle later on in the season, and he tosses it up and decides, okay, I've got to go with my strongest squad in Europe because this is a semi-final or something like that, then I'm all for it, because we are, as I've said on other streams, we are going to be fighting for that fourth spot, maybe third, but I'm not convinced, but we'll be fighting for the Champions League spot against 4 or 5 teams this season. And it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. We're going to have injuries throughout the season. Obviously, touch wood, we don't. But you can't plan for a season that you're not going to have these injuries or players that are suspended or just anything that happens during the season. People's partners having kids, anything can happen. And Champions League is clearly the goal of
big up, Jimbo. Good to see you.
It's really the goal of the club. It might not be Ange's goal, but he can achieve both goals of winning a trophy and getting Champions League by winning the Europa League.
100%.
Say that again, sorry. That last bit.
Saying that he can. It might not be Ange's main goal to get Champions League, but he can satisfy both sets of goals, his own personal and the club's, by winning the Europa League, which in turn gets Champions League.
Oh yeah. Spot
on. We did have another comment here from Dark Sun G saying no more players left who complained we lost because of the atmosphere, the weather, etc. For these Europa or Conference Leagues. Remember those days. I still remember that Cess red card against Ennis Mura, Winks' lucky goal, draw as well to Lask Linz. I mean, we've gone through plenty of horrors, Kate. I don't want you to have to relive them, but that's what I think Dave and I feel so incensed about, the Europa League and the Conference League, where it did feel very winnable for us, and the way that we were knocked out for just silly reasons. A lot of it had to do mostly with kind of the mentality of the players. Yes, the quality wasn't there in certain cases, but it did feel like either the players kind of treated it like a know-nothing competition. They were upset that they were part of so-called B team, like Nuno had them in. It just felt like some of these guys who went into these competitions actually felt like they were better than the Europa League or they were better than the Conference League. And I hope we've gotten rid of that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think there is definitely a real mentality issue at Tottenham as a club in general, but I do think that Ange is changing that. He gets a lot of criticism, Ange. There's already a lot of people that want him out, which I find amazing, but there you go. And I just think this guy's second season, he always is successful. He's been successful everywhere he's gone, and I appreciate levels are different, but he has always been a winner. And I think he's trying to get out that mentality of, like you say, oh, we're too good for the Europa League. No, we're not. We're not too good for any competition. It's all a silverware at the end of the day. Mm. When we first got in the Conference League, I actually was embarrassed and wanted us to go out of it. I'm not going to lie. But when I saw West Ham win it, I was like, wow, that could have been us winning that trophy. And yeah, FOMO. It is, yeah, it really was, because it is the lowest of the European trophies, but it is still a European trophy. And I think we need to go all out in this, because like I say, there isn't anyone on paper that I look at and think we got no chance. Whereas if we was in the Champions League, you look at the likes of Man City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich. I look at all the teams in this, and there are some good teams in it. You've got Roma and Porto and, various other teams. But I still think that if we go all out, we're well capable of winning the Europa League. But if we go out for a stupid reason or rotation and it plays a weakened team, it'll just show nothing's changed. That's how I will see it, that nothing's changing.
And I also want to add to what Kate is saying, and Dark Song G here, is the fact that Postecoglou has been able to get rid of a lot of them players, like your Sanchez's, your Dyers, and players like that. Players who, I don't blame the manager for them. The managers clearly wanted to win the cup competitions. They said that they don't look their nose up at any trophy. They want to win trophies. But the players we were putting out there were almost snobby to the point where they were like, no, I'm too good to be playing in this fixture. I should be playing at the weekend. And they were taking, they almost thought they should walk into the first team without actually having to earn it. And then when they were going out in these games, they were stropping. And what they weren't doing is actually proving a point on why they should be in the first team. They were just actually making a point that the manager was correct. Whereas if you look at the squad now, Postecoglou has got rid of a lot of them players from them games that have played in them down the years. And he's brought in players now that are fighting for their positions, that know the quality ahead of them. And they can't sit there and afford to strop. They have to just muck in and go and put in the best performances they can. And I think ultimately that's what's going to benefit us in this Europa League campaign and be different into years gone by. So that when we do make these rotational changes, everyone has a point to prove and everyone's going to be at the races. So, to Dark Song G's points, they're gone. You don't have these overgrown, overpaid babies sulking and moaning around the football club anymore, bitching and moaning why they're not in the first team. This manager said this to me. Who does he think he is? When the managers that are speaking to them are the ones that have the trophies in the cabinet and they don't. I mean, I'm just glad that overflated egos are gone and that we've got a squad that seem to be hungry now. You listen to all the messages coming from the players. We want to win trophies. It seems to be the message right now that they're trying to put out along with Postecoglou, and that's what excites me, Dark Song G. Big yourself up and hopefully you're enjoying your day, sir.
Yeah, don't want to relive those moments again, Dark Sun G, that's for sure. Yeah, Sam, come in here on this.
I think, sort of to Dave's point about the players thinking that they're better than the Europa League and they should play on the weekend, we might have players who are technically better than the players who've come before them. But what I would say about them is quite a large number of them haven't really had any European experience. And I'm using that as a good point, because these players are going to want to play in the Europa League. It might not be,
they should be hungry.
Europe's top competition, but they are going to, like, you look at Vicario saying that he'd have signed in blood and crawled to Spurs if he had to. These players want to get out there and make a name for themselves and represent the club on a European night. And I don't think that can be sort of overstated with how important it is for these players. And, you look at these young players who are thinking, this is my chance to kind of like, get my name out there in, the international scene. We've not got players who are necessarily looking to move on. You might have some. Maybe people argue that Romero, he might want to go at some point if we don't start to win. But even Romero, like, he's going to go out there and he's going to see us come up against, an Enes Mura or something like that, and be like, I am better than every player on this pitch, and really that's where you see these players take the game by the scruff of the neck, and to Vicario bollock players when they're not pulling their weight, because it's important for us to progress, and it's important for the players to make a name for themselves and beef up their CVs, because back to the Son point, he's won one trophy in his career, and it was the Asia Cup or whatever it was. Not to put down the Asia Cup, I mean, that was obviously a huge thing for South Koreans and for all teams to participate in that competition. But it doesn't carry the same pedigree as a European trophy. That's just the sort of world that we're in. And these players are going to be desperate to do something. And I think that the signings of players like Maddison, they will have been coming into Spurs wanting to be part of the team that finally breaks the trophy duck, right? So
that should feel like a motivation enough for me, Sam, right? And you would even think for any
exactly.
manager to come in and break that trophy drought should be no matter what trophy it is, whether it's a Conference League or Europa League or even a Carabao Cup, that should be enough motivation as it is to be the team that has won something with Spurs.
Exactly, and we're not necessarily the stepping stone club that we once were for a lot of these players that we have in our ranks. Some of them, obviously, it's their first ever real taste at playing at a high level. We've got a lot of young players who, as I said, are going to be hungry, and I'm excited to see what they can do if they put their minds to it. We've just got to go out there and play, for the badge, for the club, for the pedigree, for the glory.
Well, honestly, I like those talking points about the Europa League. It's nice to see other people who want to win it this year, and see some people who aren't going to put down the competition, because I think it is definitely something that is very achievable for Spurs. But on to a huge game this weekend, and it is in the title of this live show as well. It is going to be about a certain player that has actually spoke about wanting to win trophies at this football club, Van de Ven, and also as well a certain guy Solanke who said he'd like to do the same. But Solanke continued to play through an injury against Leicester City. Van de Ven continued to play through an injury against Everton. If Van de Ven and Solanke are both unavailable for this huge game this weekend with Newcastle away, do you think we've mishandled the situation when it comes to those two players? Even if they wanted to play on everyone, should maybe Ange have probably looked at their situations and tried to have avoided it and just taken them out earlier, sooner rather than later? I'll actually come back to you on this one, Sam, because you probably have maybe a strong opinion on this about game management, right? And sort of handling the injuries, trying to prevent them.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you wouldn't be a Spurs fan if when Mickey was on the ground after that, hyperextension, fearing the absolute worst for his and our own seasons. So when he came back on, I was wondering whether, they were going to say, try and run it off until half time and see what you can do. And then take him off at half time, bring Dragusin on. And to be fair to Dragusin, he looked absolutely devastated when he was sort of told to like sit down again and put his bib back on. Because, as we said, I think people are saying, oh, the game was won at that point, but it was only 2-0. We'd come under quite heavy pressure towards the end of that first half. They had a lot of goal mouth scrambles, to the point where I think it was Maddison made two really important headers, like in his own 6-yard box. And I do think I can understand why we didn't rush taking him off. But once we scored the third, there wasn't really any reason to keep him on for the whole game. I know, we wouldn't have got that beautiful moment where he runs the whole pitch and everyone's screaming Mickey Van de Ven's the best player in the world, including Agbonlahor, who doesn't miss a chance to slag us off if he gets it. So look, I mean, I would have personally taken him off at halftime. I can understand why they didn't. If he is injured, I think there will be a large section of the fan base that is quite angry at the management staff. But he was clearly okay enough to play on, and if you're fit enough, if you believe you're fit enough to go in there, hopefully, if he does miss this game, it's only a sort of a short period that he misses. Obviously, we've got the international breaks coming up, and for some reason, Ronald Koeman doesn't think that Mickey van der Ven is a starter for the Netherlands, which makes no sense to me, and I'm sure probably not a lot of fans out there. But so he gets that bit of rest period. But yeah, I would have probably taken him off myself.
I think it's if he misses out Newcastle, I think it's absolutely unforgivable. Look, the reason why the question comes about is because they haven't been seen. Him and Solanke have not been seen in the recent training videos and stuff like that. And there's a video that I've seen from TikTok where it was Mickey van der Ven on his own in the gym, which shows to me maybe he's doing a bit of recovery. And it could very well be that he's got a bit of swelling around his knee and stuff like that, and they're just trying to manage it and take it down or whatever. However, when that injury happens, we're 2-0 up. Everything ain't coming back. They've so many injuries. They don't have any options off the bench to be able to change the game. We should have had we should have had the foresight to take him off and let him do recovery, because playing the rest of the game will only do more damage, will only make his recovery process longer. We should have used Radu Dragusin. We bought him for a reason to come in here, because we believe when Romero or Van der Ven carries an injury, he's good enough to come in. We should have brought him in and preserved Van der Ven. We've got Newcastle away. We've been thumped up there 6-1 and 4-0 over the last 2 years, let alone the 5, I think it was a 5-0 or 5-1 that happened under Pochettino. We've got a North London derby coming up. We've got a Brentford game that is always notoriously difficult, and a Man United game. But also, Postecoglou knows how important Van der Ven is to play that high line. Without Van der Ven, that high line doesn't exist, and it throws the whole thing out of sync. So he should have, in essence, protected Van der Ven and took him off. Every player, and I admire Van der Ven and Solanke, by the way, for playing through pain. I admire that. That's what I ask, some players to do. But there's a time and a place for it. So early into the season, when you've got 4 or 5 difficult fixtures coming up, that's going to make or break Tottenham's season in terms of what our ambitions are in the Premier League, etc. You take him off and you make sure you've done everything you can to make him available for the Newcastle game.
Yeah.
And that's where I think Postecoglou got it wrong. You take the decision out of the player's hands at times like this, especially knowing, how easy it is for Van der Ven to pick up these injuries. You take it out of his hands and you do him a favor. You protect him. And I do think Postecoglou made the wrong call.
Did he miss that moment there to take him off there, Kate? Do you feel like with 2 goals up against Everton, put Dragon in, don't even take the risk with Van der Ven?
I think it's a difficult one. Look, I'm seeing the chat already getting on to Angie's back about it, right? But if a player comes off at half time and says, look, it was just a little twist, I'm absolutely fine, I want to run it off, then you turn around and go, well, actually, no, I'm taking you off, it's not acceptable, and run a risk. I mean, I don't think Everton would have scored if we'd have played another 90 minutes, to be fair. But there was always a chance. It was only 2-0. So do you override the player and say, no, you're coming off? Or do you take the player's word and say, well, fine, if that's how you feel, carry on. These are adult men. They're athletes. They know their own body. I just think you've got to be careful how much you judge. I understand precautionary, take him off. But if we took him off at half-time, who's to say we wouldn't be in exactly the same situation? I don't know. Until it comes out exactly what's wrong with his knee and if he is going to be out, I think it's unfair to judge. The Ange outers, the Ange doubters will be straight on Ange's back for this. I'm just trying not to get on the manager's back for anything until it's proven exactly what happened. But from what I gather, Van der Ven said at half-time he felt absolutely fine. He said after the game he felt absolutely fine, but wanted to have it checked to just check out that there wasn't any potential injury. So, if my son tells me, he's nearly 18, if he tells me that he feels fine and his leg's fine and he wants to run up the road, I'm not going to say, well, actually, no, I don't want you to. These are adult athletes. He surely wouldn't put himself at risk. That's how I see it.
I'm one of the most cautious people in the world in most situations, either defensively or when it comes to injuries. I, during the watch along, was saying that I felt like that was the perfect time to take Van de Ven off because we know that he went through such a huge injury last season. And it's probably just the bias that we did see him go through that injury last year. And we really felt the effects of it that, early on in the season, when you can get maybe minutes into the legs of someone like a Dragishin who will get his time later on, didn't feel like the worst time in the world to throw him in there, even if it was against Van de Ven's wishes. Believe me, I think a lot of these people, like you're saying, Kate, they probably know their bodies very well, but they're also very competitive guys and they want to be on the pitch. They don't want to be off it. They don't want to feel like someone's going to step in and do the job for them. And I think Ange Postecoglou sometimes has to, in this situation, take maybe the control away from them or take it out of their hands and just look at it. I'm not going to say balanced or objectively, but just look at it from more of a bird's eye view of the whole course of the season, where in a game like this, where you should probably go on and finish them off, you have a very suitable center back like someone like Dragishin who can come in and do a job for us. It'd make a lot of sense to give Van de Ven that rest. And also the hindsight of knowing that a bigger and up better and more important games are upcoming after that. And it's only going to be found out in probably about 24 hours or 48 hours time. But, maybe Dave and I will look kind of silly for making this more dramatic, than it needs to be. But I did feel like there was an opportunity missed there to, throw in someone like Dragishin. And I think you would also show to Dragishin that you have faith in him, that yes, in these situations, we trust you and we'd be happy to throw you in there in case, an injury were to occur. And the same thing I would say for Romero. The same thing I would say for Pedro Porro as well. Like if Pedro Porro in that one situation where he was kind of hobbling on his ankle for about, what was it, 10, 15 minutes in that Leicester City game, immediately I was saying to Dave, throw Jed Spence in there. That's someone who I trust, who can come on and try to make something happen himself. It's so early on in the season that we shouldn't be trying to risk injuries, in my opinion. But that's just probably a very cautious way to look at trying to handle these guys' situations. But it is difficult because they're competitive guys and they want to be out there. They don't want to see someone take their spot, and that also comes into consideration.
And just quickly, just to respond to Sean here, because he's saying what I'm saying in the chat is inaccurate. I don't know how much more easier I can break it down, to be brutally honest with you. But when you do something to your leg or you hyperextend it or have something like that, and the longer you continue to go through the motions and the more strain you put on it, the more potential you have for risk of further damage. But not only that, the longer your recovery process is and the more swelling you put on it. The quicker you sit down, you take yourself out of the situation, the quicker you can manage it and the less swelling that actually happens. I don't know how much more I can break it down, to be brutally honest.
And Fazio Radfar is saying backing a manager means being patient with him. Kate, you've been kind of sort of alluding to the fact that you've been a bit upset with some of the questioning of Ange Postecoglou. Even just now, I was doing some of it. Do you think we have to show a bit more patience with Ange and show a bit more faith in some of his decision making?
Well, do you know what it is, right? The thing is with me, I get it, and it's what I said about Sonny. If someone's good, you praise them. If someone's bad, you criticize them. And Ange has made some odd decisions in his time. There's things I've criticized him for, but at the same time, there seems to at the minute be this whole thing about criticizing him and pulling this guy to pieces, saying he doesn't know what he's doing, he's out of his depth, he's this, he's that. I just think everyone needs to chill. This guy's not an idiot. He's been a manager for 30 odd years. Yes, okay, Scotland isn't the same as the Premier League, neither's Australia, neither's Japan, but you don't become a bad manager overnight. So I just think, a bit of criticism. And like you say, if Van de Ven comes out and he's going to miss the game, Ange should be criticised for that. He should have been a bit more sort of assertive and made him come off. But I don't know what the fans want. I don't know what the fans want at the minute. Do they want us to get rid of Ange and bring someone else in? When are we going to get off this merry-go-round of constantly having a go at a manager and then them sort of driving them out, if you like? Because as soon as the fans turn on the manager, Levy pulls the trigger, we get someone else in. When's it going to stop? I just don't see it's the way forward. That's just my view.
Do you think we're not being patient enough with some of Ange's decisions as a fan base, Sam? And then we're going to go on to the members' questions after this.
I mean, look, as we said with the Son thing, there's always going to be criticism. Some of it's justified, some of it's not. I think for me, the biggest criticism I have of Ange, and look, I think I'm pretty neutral. I've not seen enough in either direction to say sack him or he's the best thing since sliced bread. I like him. I think he's charismatic. I think that the players clearly respond pretty well to him for the most part. And he's managed to be a part of this coaching and background stuff that has enabled us to build up the talent of the squad whilst removing the bad apples and the players most of the players who don't have what it takes to play in an attacking based system. Whether or not the squad is in a better or worse position for that, that remains to be seen. But I think my biggest criticism of him is you can be stubborn with how you go about managing your team. Everyone's got their sort of core principles that the non-negotiables they won't break, right? But my problem was after that Chelsea game where, even me, myself, I was actually working during the game. So I had it on a stream in my pocket and I was listening to it and watching it when I could. But to come out after the game and be like, we could have 5 players on the pitch and we'll still play the same, just made it so that, it probably put a lot of the season's problems on the team, I think, by saying that, because then every team just went, oh, well, if we're going to take him at face value, he's going to set up the exact same way, no matter if we have a low block or if we're playing fully attacking. So why don't we just be a low block and make it difficult for them to play the way they want to play, flood the middle. We've spoken about it before. The inverting fullbacks means that you've got so many players in that middle and sort of final third of the pitch. There's nowhere to go. You're not seeing the ability of our attacking players because they get the ball and if they haven't got their own player in their way, they've got 3 or 4 opposition players in a sort of 5-10 yard radius, and it's difficult. I'm happy with how we played in Everton, but I think it speaks volumes that was probably the only game that I can remember under Ange where we've put in a full 90-minute performance. I'm struggling to think of any other games like that. Maybe the Newcastle game last year at home or the Villa game away. But other than that, I can't really remember any real domination. I feel like we've always been a team of halves. No matter the manager, at least from what I can watch, we were either a first half team or a second half team. I can't remember which manager it was under, but we'd go in the first half, we'd have absolutely nothing. We'd be looking like we're about to get destroyed. And in the second half, we'd come in and turn it up. And the argument was, why can't we play like that in the first half? Or why can't we play like that in the second half? So we need to fix that inconsistency of how we go into games. And I think the Leicester game on the first game of the season was quite a big indicator that is still a big problem for us. The momentum swing completely knocked us out. And although we'd had so much in the first half, it looked like towards the end, Leicester could win it. We had very minimal chances. And I think that's why people are putting a lot of pressure on that and a lot of criticism on that Richarlison chance towards the end. And yeah, I think he should have got it on target, but I don't think it was as clear cut and a definite goal as people kind of want you to believe. I'm not sure what your opinions are on that, but I think had we not been in that position, that chance hardly gets spoken about because it doesn't matter. But in the end, it did, and we need to see more going forward. So as I say, I'm not Ange out, and I'm not in love with Ange. I'm pretty neutral at the moment.
I think we have tried to show a lot of patience towards him and faith towards him. Believe me, especially Dave and I, we do not want to have to go through the effort and all of the turmoil of having to get used to another manager, try to understand his tactics, try to embed, the signings that he wants into the club. It takes a long time for that to happen. And I don't think we want to go through that. We are definitely ready to show faith in Ange. And I just think maybe in this particular case, we're just thinking about a particular 2 moments or maybe few moments so far this season where maybe things could have been looked at a bit differently when it comes to game management or injury management. It's not really, I think, that much of a a criticism of the manager. I think it's actually just a, sort of a suggestion, or just even just a fan's opinion about, times in the past where things could have been prevented. And a classic case is fans were always using hindsight, and that's just kind of how it works, in a lot of cases. And I think with this one, I think it's a fair thing to bring up, when it comes to it. And some people have agreed with my mention of Poros. Some people have disagreed with the version of Van de Ven, but you could say that maybe there have been a few instances already this season where maybe an injury could have been looked at a bit differently by the management. It's even not just Ange Postecoglou. It could also be the people that are in charge of the medical staff, as it is as well.
The thing is, they were very quick to take off Adoji the other day when he had an injury, but they weren't very, very quick to show that same to Van de Ven. And to me, they're the two of they're both players that you have to be able to protect, considering we don't really have the adequate backups, but more so Adoji than Van de Ven. But still, with Van de Ven, you just didn't need to take that risk. Pochettino, I could understand him taking the risk with someone like Harry Kane in the Champions League final, right? It's a one-off game. It's a Champions League final. Okay, it didn't pay off, but I can understand that. I can't understand it against Everton. I just can't. And I do think that is a fair criticism
I feel that way too.
Of Ange Postecoglou in the game. I do think, he could have protected the player a bit more. I'm not sitting here pulling down the system. I like the system. I think, especially from a player, from a fan's point of view, looking at players, there's nowhere to hide. If you're not on it, you're going to get exposed in this system. And I like that about it. However, with the system, unlike other systems like a Conte or Jose, if you're not quite at it, sometimes you can get away with it and get a point. In the Ange system, you won't do that. And I think that's where the criticisms more or less come into the Ange Postecoglou system. But I do think this is a fair criticism, to be brutally honest with you.
And time for our members section. By the way, everybody, if you are a member, before any one of these panel shows, which we are going to try to run, of course, on a regular basis for each game week and just each week in general, throughout this campaign and this roller coaster of a season, you do get to put in your questions for us at the end of the show. We're going to pass them off one by one to each of our panelists here. And it's a great way, I think, just to wrap up the show in a different way, a bit of a palate cleanser, if you will, for the end of it. And we're going to start off first with Paul Connor at the bottom here. And this is definitely topical for what Dave and I will be talking about tomorrow. What signings would you like to see Spurs make before the deadline? And do you think we will even make any signings, especially with Reguilón and Lo Celso leaving the club? Kate, what would be a signing that you would like to see happen before the deadline?
Oh, I still kind of thought this would happen, to be fair, but Alistair Gold and David Ornstein tonight have put a spanner in the works. But I actually saw like a Morgan Gibbs-White coming in, or even a James Ward-Prowse, because the West Ham manager has come out and said that he doesn't really want James Ward-Prowse, doesn't see a future with him at Spurs. And I was thinking, set pieces, but whether it will happen, I don't know. Obviously, they're both English players as well. A left back would have been nice, a winger. There's still loads of gaps that I would have liked filled, but I did think a Morgan Gibbs-White might still be coming through the door, but we'll see.
All right. Next question is from Congo 108. Should we field our best 11 for the League Cup match, or should we use the youngsters to preserve energy? This caused lots of division last year, Sam. What would you say? Should Ange go with a strong team, or should he maybe think about throwing in some of the youngsters?
Look, I've made the point on other streams before. I think it obviously depends on the opposition that you're playing. But I think that our biggest downfall when we've had these so-called B teams is the fact that we throw all the players who are not in the manager's like first team plans, or that haven't had the chance to do anything yet. We throw them all in together and expect them to make an impact on what's going on in the game. And I think that that's been detrimental to players like Dane Scarlett, for example, who comes on and, he's playing alongside like Brian Hill. I know you guys love Brian, but, he's never, he's had a handful of moments, and then for some reason we decided to loan him back to Spain just after he started coming into the team. But you're not giving the youngsters a chance to play with any real experience and feed off the mentality of these players they're playing alongside. So as I've said before, I'm fine. I'm more than happy, actually, not just fine. I'm more than happy to see, like 6 or 7 changes in a game. If you're gonna play youngsters alongside players that have experience. But I don't want to see, like, for example, I'm not sure what is happening with Phillips, if he's gone out or not. But if we're going to throw in a backline of Dragusin and Phillips, then what's the point of that? Because neither of them has any real experience. I know Dragusin had played quite a lot of games for Genoa and was, by all accounts, one of their better players last season before we signed him. But you can't have. I wouldn't want to see a midfield of just Bergvall and Gray either. In one of these games where they have the potential to be bullied. I think comments from Bergvall saying, like, when he'd announced that he was going to Spurs, a lot of the Swedish midfielders and defenders were sort of smashing into him, and he felt like that was going to be setting him in good stead to come into the Premier League, which I think is right. But I just don't think that you can play no experience and expect, if things start to go wrong, expect them to sort of pull a rabbit out of the hat, and then you've got to, as we've done in the past, throw everything at the game, like throwing on all your big players towards the end of the game to try and make sure you get something out of it. So I'm more than happy to see young players play, but I don't want us to be stupid with the selections that we put out.
And then Shawnee Maddox, for you, Dave, which player are you looking forward to watching most this international break? He says, for me, it's Bergvall with the Swedish men's team. The Swedish Mafia would definitely be fun, but what are you looking forward to catching any players over the international break?
Yeah, Bergvall will be exciting to see how he gets on with Sweden, see if he can maybe develop a partnership in that midfield with Kulusevski. If I'm the Swedish international manager, that's something I would be looking to maybe play off and develop. Apart from that, to be honest, I don't really enjoy our players going away on international breaks because usually we come back with a couple of injuries. So I'm going to give you an Irish player today. Tottenham managed to lure over Casey McAtee, English-born, plays with Leicester, managed to lure him over. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to the Ireland setup because we really lack wingers in the team.
I hope we get to see also that man O'Brien in our fantasy team, by the way, because I haven't been able to get any glimpses of him because of Sean Dyche. He's been very reluctant to play him. Ryan Tristana says, is there any truth that we are in for one more player? If so, who is it? But I think the window is a 1 out of 10. And do you think we will get Eze in January, or Tottenham going to do the same thing? Maybe I'll take this one. I actually don't think we're going to bring in another player in the next 24 hours. I think we'll more likely see some players leave. Hopefully Lo Celso and potentially a Reguilón, but definitely in my hopes more of a Lo Celso, because I just don't see the point of him staying around anymore. That's in the case of the squad, but also just for his own career. I just don't get why he's still even here at this point. I think he should be forcing a move out. But Dave and I did a video just recently kind of suggesting that Spurs, they can't really bring in anybody they want, whether it's homegrown, non-homegrown. It needs to be specifically basically a homegrown / club trained player, and that can be very difficult to do, I think, with only 24 hours left. When it comes to Eze, I think we've missed the boat. I think that's going to be a player that we would have to wait until pretty much the next summer, and by probably the January window, you'd expect that Spurs will look to at least bring in maybe one player, because it always happens, an injury or maybe a certain hole in the squad that hasn't been addressed, which definitely has happened before. So I hope that maybe Spurs bring in like a left-sided center back maybe in January. They should have done it this summer, but I hope that they do it more in the January window, Ryan. Mark is asking, does every black hole contain a singularity? Anybody, an astronomy expert? Anybody know about the sciences?
I don't even know what it means.
I looked this up earlier. Apparently, it comes to, and I'm going to explain this horribly, but when it comes to black holes, apparently there is no such thing as a singularity when it comes to it. It's like some sort of, when you're trying to explain a singularity in a black hole, you're basically trying to explain a flaw in physical theory, basically, or something with like theory in the study of astronomy. So it's like trying to point out if there is, a flaw in the laws that they all create. But this is far out of my league. I'm definitely more for this type of thing, just blabbering on about, the likes of injuries and the likes of game management and that sort of stuff. That's probably more my realm. And Mark is showing to be a much smarter man than me. But funny enough, I do actually have an uncle who is an astronomer at the University of Penn, by the way, over here in the US. So I wish I actually had him on for this question. He would have given us a 2-hour answer, I imagine, on that one.
Mark as well. I mean, give us a chance. We found it hard to get our heads around the squad, registration criteria and stuff like that, let alone heading into, physics and science and all that baloney. Not for me, Mark. Wrong question, wrong channel. Maybe
I like
if you
Derek
go
Smith's
to
answer, Dave.
theories,
42.
program.
I think 42 is the correct answer. Derek Smith saying 42 is the correct answer. That was his. And I think I'll go with that one. Lee Harvey saying, evening, Dave and Jack. My question is, are you going to the North London Derby, Dave? And Jack, are you going to be attending a home or an away game this season? Dave and I are planning on going to the Crystal Palace game towards the end of the season. I think it's around May period. So, approaching the summer, early or late spring, whatever time period you want to call that. But I think that's been our plan, is to try to go to that game. Dave, are you planning on going to more than just one game though this year?
I did have a ticket for the North London Derby, but I did give it away. Someone wanted to go with their son, so I gave the ticket over there so they could go as a duo. I was hoping to get my hands on another one, but I probably won't be going to this North London Derby now, to be brutally honest with you. But I will be going to the Crystal Palace home game towards the back end of the season. That would be one I'm definitely 100% going to, and you never know. Sometimes I might just get the urge, just to get over there beforehand. It's sort of spur in a minute thing. I look at it and go, you know what? I'll go. So if I do, believe me, I'll let you all know. I like to gloat when I'm making my way over there, because it's a special occasion for Dave. It's like going to church. So, it's good. Big up, Lee. You're on mute, Jack.
Thank you, Dave. Edward Joker Dave is saying, someone took my question, so I'll just answer it. We should field a mix of starting 11 and youngsters. It's up against a championship side. We should be beating them easily, even if we do field some youngsters. So it sounds like he's in kind of a similar bracket to the rest of the chat here, who were saying something similar to Sam as well, which is don't just throw in the entire under 21 side, but throw in some experience, guys that we know play on a regular basis that can kind of show the leadership that's going to be needed in a game like this, but also still give opportunities to some of the players that wouldn't be able to play on a regular basis. Some sort of balance, some sort of mix of the two. And I think a lot of people would agree with you on that one, Edward. But I think this now reaches the end of this little section. Please, everybody, if you did miss out on this, do this next time for us. We try to post this at the beginning of the day for all the members. They can get their say at the end of the show, and we try our best to answer them as well, and we save time to do that. And also thanks to Kate and Sam for spending extra time with us to answer these questions. But now it's time to repay a little faith to Sam as well as Kate here, and taking the time out of their evenings and coming on and having a say with us. Kate, we're going to put in your channel name here, or sorry, your link, and thanks to Dave for doing that. Just a girl who loves Spurs, tell us about your great channel.
Oh, what can I say? We're always on every lunchtime around 12 o'clock. Me and Jimbo. So we're back tomorrow doing our predictions. Also, we'll probably be live when the draw's going on, same as you guys, and covering any last minute deals. But yeah, come on over. It's quite a light channel. Like to have a bit of a laugh. Jack and Dave have both been on. Yeah, hopefully we will be going to the North London Derby, possibly. But if not, we will be at the Ipswich game in November. So, but yeah, please, we're just aiming to get to the next milestone of 2,000. We're 1,570 odd at the minute. So yeah, any support would be massively appreciated. Thank you. And as always, Jack and Dave, thank you very much for inviting me on. I love coming on this channel.
No, I really appreciate you giving up your time this
Kate.
evening away from the lovebird Jimbo. I really appreciate it. I'm sure he doesn't appreciate it, but we do. Also, will you be sitting in a different section this North London Derby?
Oh, yes. I mean, we was lucky when we went to Everton, we was right behind the goal. And I think if we do go to the North London Derby, we'll be on the halfway line with the prawn sandwich brigade. So not next to the away fans this time, thank goodness.
I don't know how you endured it, especially 3-0 down after 38 minutes. I mean,
I know.
They were just giving us absolute pelters. They were giving it to us big time. It was sickening, to be brutally honest. But everybody, please get over. Just the girl who loves Spurs. Smash that subscribe button. Let's give them a nice push towards the 2K. Her and Jim are lovely people, know a lot about the game as well. So make sure you get over there and check that out. Sorry. And then on to Sam. Plug yourself, Sammy boy.
Yeah, as the boys have kindly put in the chat, Spurs undercover. I've not yet delved into the depths of Tottenham YouTube. Maybe that's something for the future. I feel like I'm just now starting to find a bit of a footing in the Twitter sphere, or the X sphere, whatever you want to call it. I'll still call it Twitter. Yeah, look, I said on one of the previous streams, there's a lot of discourse and negativity from a lot of different sections of the fan base. You know, we don't do middle ground as a fan base. We do extremes.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly. What is that? So, you know, I feel like when I can, or when work's quiet, I'm trying to sow a few like calming seeds out there, and show people's perspectives on both sides. Like I'm kind of in the boat of you know, I'm not a Levy outer. I'm kind of more better the devil you know than the one that you don't. And I look at Todd Bowley at Chelsea, and I worry that, you know, we could end up having something like that. Maybe we might get success from it, but I do fear that. So, you know, I'm trying to show both sides. I'm trying to sow some unity back into the community. And you know it's true because it rhymes.
God loves a trier.
And yeah, look, I'm out here just trying to look fresh in my Spurs gear. And just enjoying the getting on here. So thanks to Dave and Jack, and it's a pleasure to be on with you, Kate.
And you.
And yeah, just, you know, I wouldn't nowhere else I'd be other than on this little panel on a Thursday night. So don't worry about keeping us on.
Sam, you're saying you're not too deep into the Spurs YouTube. I think you already are too deep if you're hanging out with me and Dave, you know, us two idiots on the on the Spurs sort of you know, situation. I think you're already knee deep, at least at this point. But I think a lot of people would like to see you create your own channel if you ever get around to it, because a lot of people do like to hear what you have to say. And of course, as well, it's good to have Kate on, filling in for Johnny for tonight. And Kate, you did a smashing job as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening. And I think we'll leave it there, everybody. Smash the like button on your way out. Yeah, Dave, go ahead. You wrap it up.
Big day tomorrow, everybody. Absolute huge day. Your boy's going to get an early night, going to be a break bright and early. To be honest, not expecting anything to happen in terms of incomings, but we will find our fate out in the Europa League. The under-21s also have a game. And then later on in the evening, when we're all mulling about the transfer window, your boys will be live to mull with you guys as well. So big day tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. Also Saturday, channel creators predictions, predicted lineup, and then Sunday back to the usual match day stuff. So a big weekend on the channel. Don't go anywhere. We've got all your needs covered. But as much as we would like to sit here and be with you guys all night, my relationship with food is very important, and I am very hungry right now. So unfortunately, I do have to call an end to this show. Massive thank you to Jack, to Sam, to Kate for this evening. Really appreciate it. Massive thank you to everybody who's decided to tune in on this fine evening. Again, I question why you're not outside and enjoying the weather, but hey ho, I do appreciate the support. When in Rome, as they say. And a massive thank you to everybody who's gone the extra mile. Dermatron, Dark Sung G, and Faz Radfar as well. Really appreciate it, guys. That's it from myself and Jack. See you back here tomorrow. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust. We never stop. Smash the like. Sorry, Jack, go ahead.
You have to tell people what you're eating because you're breaking your own rule, and then you can sign off.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, people. Yeah, that's very important, actually. Hold me to my own standards. I like that.
Yeah.
Nothing fancy tonight. Just going to whip up some lettuce with some salad cream on it, some spring onions, then some shredded crispy chicken with bacon bits. You know, whip that together. Nice little salad. Might go for a few chips on the side. Can't be completely healthy. Have to, you know, throw a few chips in there somewhere. So nothing exciting tonight, guys, unfortunately. It's more exciting tomorrow. I'm going to have a nice roast dinner for a well-earned, you know, when I finish my transfer stream tomorrow. And then Saturday, I'm going hiking up Wicklow. I will be back down in the mountains. And then we'll be doing a watch-along on T4. As soon as we're finished that, your boy's going to have another roast dinner. So that's where the excitement comes in. But Sunday's the real excitement. That's takeaway day. Takeaway day is Sunday. That's where the real excitement comes in. So I'll let you know Sunday what I'm having, guys. Or I might even start putting up a poll and you can decide for me. But guys, that's it. Enough food talk. I'm hungry. See you later. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening, everybody.